There, and welcome to Expedited Category number 7, a presentation by Solutions IRB. My name is Cassidy Nosecable, and I'm pretty new to the IRB world as well, so we'll be learning this together. Before we explore category number 7, let's talk about what an expedited study is. And if you've seen any of our other presentations, these next couple slides might look a little familiar. Now, expedited studies are studies where the research presents no more than minimal risk to subjects and involves only procedures listed in one or more of the 9 expedited categories. It's really important to note that expedited does not mean fast in this case. Instead, it refers to a level of review. That being said, here at Solutions IRB, we do get these done very quickly. A topic of confusion we see every once in a while is the difference between exempt and expedited studies. Exempt studies are listed as less than minimal risk and fit one of the 8 exempt categories, whereas expedited studies are listed as not greater than minimal risk and fit one of the 9 expedited categories. So the big difference between those two is how close they get to that level of minimal risk. An exempt study, which is going to be less than minimal risk, is going to be very, very low risk for your participants. So this might be something like anonymous surveys. You don't really have any information about the participant except for their answers to your survey. Whereas an expedited study might be a survey, it might be the same questions you asked in the exempt study, except this time you're collecting some information about your user because you're actually researching specifically how that individual fits into a group and their characteristics and behavior. So it's gonna up that level of risk a little bit for your participants because you'll know a little bit more about them. The big difference between exempt and expedited was how close they got to that level of minimal risk. But what does minimal risk mean? Minimal risk means that the probability and magnitude of harm or discomfort anticipated in the research are not greater than those ordinarily encountered in daily life or during the performance of routine physical or psychological examinations or tests. So to put that in layman's terms, it essentially means that the risks that your participants will encounter in your study are no higher than the risks that they already encounter in their day-to-day lives. This presentation is specifically on expedited category number 7, so let's dive into that. Category 7 is research on individual or group characteristics or behavior, including but not limited to research on perception, cognition, motivation, identity, language, communication, cultural beliefs or practices, and social behavior, or research employing survey, interview, oral history, focus group, program evaluation, human factors evaluation, or quality assurance methodologies. Now, a really important note is that research that might fit under this category could also potentially fit under exempt category 2 or 3. So make sure you're paying close attention when it comes to your study as to which one it's going to fit under best. And remember, the big difference between exempt and expedited is that level of risk. So if you think your study does have a little bit more risk involved, play it safe, apply under expedited. Once we review it, if we do notice that maybe it's in the wrong category, we'll let you know. Let's look at some examples of research that would fit under expedited category number 7. One example would be surveying groups for their perception of other groups. So let's say you are surveying immigrants about their perceptions of the native people to an area, or vice versa. You could be doing interviews with sensitive questions. Now remember, they can't be too sensitive because in the definition of expedited, it can be no greater than minimal risk to your participants, but a little bit of sensitivity in the questions might fit in this category as well. Focus groups on group perceptions of a social behavior would fit. Program evaluations for programs catering to a specific group of people, or interviews with individuals about a cultural practice. They would all fit under this category. Something you need to watch out for when you are doing an expedited study are factors that might cause your study to get bumped up to a full board level of review. So something that might cause that under category number 7 would be overly sensitive topics of conversation. Remember, you can ask sensitive questions, they just cannot go above that level of minimal risk. So if your questions are getting a little bit too sensitive, then that might cause you to need a full board review. You might also be working with vulnerable populations. In some cases, that would cause you to need to go to a full board review as well. So let's say you're working with children or people with special needs or prisoners. All of that might cause your study to get bumped up to that next level of review. Really, just anything that causes the risks to your participants to become higher than minimal risk, that's going to need a full board review. Now, our job as an IRB is to protect human participants in research. So that's why these things might happen. That's why a study might get bumped up to full board, because our job is to look out for the participants, and if it's going above that level of minimal risk, we need to give it a little bit closer look. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can visit our website at www.solutionsirb.com, or you can send us an email to correspondence@solutionsirb.com. Thanks again.